I am Kevin Orosz, and I'm really excited about this one. I'm joined here in the studio with Ali Shanti, Empress. I'm going to self-proclaim you as Queen of Boulder, Queen of the synarchical community that we run in. And yeah, this is exciting. This is a big episode. I can feel it percolating before we even get into it. And yeah, this is the Re-Evolution podcast. I want to invite anyone watching right away to be mindful of what comes up for you in this, because this is all about money. And this is all about our relationship and coming into right relating with that. And yeah, some of you may know Ali from her past life as a main media outlet anchor and financial consultant. She's also a lawyer and worked in estate law and has been on Fox News, ABC, NBC, all the things. And now she's a big part of this shift, this migration of money consciousness between generations and within what we might name the conscious community. So I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, it's so good to be here with you today. I love that we're both bridges between these generations and between the old world and the new paradigm, creating the new structures and really supporting people to step into those structures with full alignment. And so I'm so glad to be here with you today too.
Yes, I'm stoked. We're broadcasting live to you from Boulder, Colorado, which is the current vortex and home of much of our tribe. I want to invoke a few names here. Shout out to Paul Cooper and Light Leadership, which we just completed last week, which was amazing. Yeah. And also, you just got done filming with Mark Angelo and the Superhero Crew.
I did, yeah.
Which is exciting. Yeah. And there's a big migration and nexus there as well. They were here in Boulder, and they just left recently. So just to get into this, Ali, and provide a little context, maybe it's valuable to share a little bit about your journey. Yeah. Because I know you started as, a young mother, and also were hyper successful as an attorney and a lawyer. Yeah. And now you've made this transition, and I see you as one of the spearheads in this community to provide context and healing around money.
Yeah. Well, and what's really interesting is I haven't really made a transition per se, right? Because I'm still very much in the world of legal and really transforming that world. And it's been beautiful to watch how it's changed over the years. And back in the day, 10 years ago, when I started training lawyers, they just wanted to learn how to make more money. And now what's different is that they actually want to learn how to really make a difference in their clients' lives, how to bring their heart forward, and of course, have a great income model and a great life along the way as well. And they can have it all. And that's really the reality, is that we can all have it all when we are in right relationship with time, money, and how we get paid. And so when I started out, I followed all the very traditional paths of success. Life, my parents, society, whatever said to me, go to college, go to law school, get your degree. I graduated first in my class from Georgetown Law because I knew that was going to give me the most opportunities. I clerked for a judge on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals right below the Supreme Court. I got recruited to one of the best law firms in the country, the one that was started by Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's right hand. Warren Buffett doesn't make a decision without, consulting with Charlie Munger. And I thought that's what kind of a lawyer I was going to be. I was going to be this trusted advisor to my clients. And then I get into that reality and I realize, oh no, I'm like 28 years old. I've got a 6-figure job. I've got a baby. I'm married. I bought a house. The golden handcuffs are just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. I'm commuting an hour each way. And then I gave birth to my second child and I realized I can't do this. And I never imagined being an entrepreneur. I never imagined being in business for myself. I thought that I was just setting up for the, very traditional path of success, and realized, okay, I'm going to actually have to go out and create my own law practice. Wow. With no resources in the bank. No, I don't come from a wealthy family. I had my law degree. I thought it would be pretty easy, actually. And I get into practice in my community in the South Bay of Los Angeles. And I find out, wow, there's a whole host of things to learn around business. And actually creating this new law business model, which I did. I was able to build my law practice from nothing into $1 million a year revenue generating business in just 3 years. So hit the height of that, wrote a best-selling book on legal planning for families, started doing all this TV, Today Show, Good Morning America, Fox News, CNN, all of it. And every time I got there, I realized that what I had created was empty. It's like, how could this very traditional path of success and achieving it every single time keep leaving me feeling like this isn't it? Well, if this isn't it, then what is it? What is it? And that all led up to 2009 when I had my first ayahuasca journey. And yeah, that's when everything like really just really in many ways blew apart. And I was really resistant to it. And I want to say that because I thought, oh, these people are doing this, you know, this drugs just to get high and, you know, it's recreational. And just life led me to it. Life led me to really question my judgments, led me to say, okay, why don't I actually see what's here? So went into this journey space, and what I saw was a world that works for everyone, a world that works for everyone. And I saw how this traditional path of success was repeatedly creating a world that worked only for me. And that my success was actually built on the backs of other people.
Right.
And went into a big depression. There was really no integration support back in those days. And went into a big depression and couldn't figure out how to merge what I had seen, this world that works for everyone, with what I had created, this success that really was just working for me. And ended up having to actually leave LA because I couldn't, you know, I kept having that draw to do TV where I was going on national television to gossip about other human beings, because that's really what those shows are, right?
Ratings.
The ratings, and like it was during when Tiger Woods was having his divorce, and you know, I'm on the Nancy Grace show, and normally I would be on there and I'd be like completely, my mind would be silent because my ego was really satisfied.
Right.
But this one day in November of 2009, I'm sitting on the Nancy Grace show, and you know, get this loud booming voice in my head that says, "What the fuck are you doing? You've just spent 4 hours in hair and makeup. Drive down to the studio, get here so that you can be on national television gossiping about another human being. You are contributing to the world -1,000. You can never do this again." And it was a huge, you know, like terror inside of me because I loved doing it, or at least some part of me loved doing it. You know, I felt like I was doing what I was meant to be doing. And so I moved to Colorado. And when I moved here, what I realized, the first thing that I realized is that I had been very lonely, very, 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 very lonely. And I realized I didn't actually know how to be in connection. I didn't know how to have relationships with people. Every single decision that I made was based on money. What would bring me more money? Should I go to this event? Well, will it bring me money or not? Should I be friends with this person? Will it bring me money or not? And I feel curious, how many of you are in this kind of a situation where every decision, even if you don't admit it, but every decision is in the back of your head based on money. Right. And through that, I began to realize that there was something off. Like who am I really? Who am I if money isn't my driving motivator, if I'm not just trying to create more and more and more? And what is enough? And around this time, I had read Lynn Twist's book, The Soul of Money. And in this book, she talks about sufficiency. And I loved this idea of sufficiency, right? How many of us want sufficiency? Right. And I loved it. And yet I didn't know what that was. I had no idea what sufficiency was. In my mind, I had this idea that $40 million would get me freedom. Wow. $40 million. And why $40 million? Well, that would, in my mind, invested at 5%. This is how the financial advisors do it, by the way. They say you want to have enough money so that you can invest it. They say 7%, but really interest rates are low. So that you can have it invested at 5% so that it will throw off enough income for you so that you don't have to work another day in your life. And fortunately...
Buying your freedom.
You're buying your freedom. You think you're buying your freedom.
Right. But
fortunately, around that time, I met the man that I call the $100 million man. And he woke me up. He didn't know he was waking me up, but he woke me up. And the way that he woke me up is I thought for sure he's going to be the most free human I've ever met, right? He's got $100 million. He was the most trapped human I had ever met. Wow. He had his $100 million, but that's all he could talk about. Where it was, how he could get access to it, what sort of currency and gold and silver and all of these things. And that's all he could talk about. And he was still working like a crazy man.
Right.
And maybe he liked that. Maybe he liked the work. And now that I've gotten into right relationship with time, energy, attention, and money, I call those our team resources. I actually see that sometimes I really like to work a lot because it's a safe zone.
Yeah.
Like I feel really confident there.
Safe in the hustle.
It's super safe. Like relationally, it's just, I know how to do that. It's easy in many respects, but it was keeping me trapped. It was keeping me lonely. And so I actually had to let it all go. I had to let it all go. I had to burn my reputation, my brand, my image, my ego, everything. And I was forced, and I say forced because I believe that everything in life happens by force or choice. So if you are in a process of waking up, life is going to either force you there or you're going to choose. Right? Choosing is so much easier. I didn't have...
And there's more power in the choice.
So much power. But if you don't have that ability, like if you can't see the choices or you're overwhelmed because you have so many choices so that you can't make that choice, life will force you there. Usually it's a relationship crisis, a health crisis, a financial crisis, a parenting crisis. For me, fortunately, it was a financial crisis. And I say fortunately because that's actually the easiest one. Right? Health crisis is the worst.
That's the worst one. Injury, disease.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? So I was forced, even though I was, had $1 million business at that time, really life just kept forcing me to move to this farm for a year where I would not do anything that I wouldn't do for free.
Wow.
And I got to have this experience of discovering who am I if money is not the driving motivator? And what I began to see is how many decisions in my life were made on that motivator. And some of you might be saying, well, yeah, I have to make my decisions based on money as a motivator because I don't have enough.
Right.
Many people are saying that who actually have more than enough.
Far more than enough.
And so many of you, though, some of you are living this reality of just getting by. So those are the two ends of the spectrum that I often see. Either you're just getting by, you're like, oh, I'm just going to take as little as possible. This is for those of you that are the light workers, the healers, right? Just going to take as little as possible because I don't want to be a drain on the system. But in fact, when you do that, you become a drain on the system. Yes. You become a drain. On the flip side is those of you who have more than enough. You already have enough. And now it's time to look at how you can buy back your time, energy, and attention, your non-renewable resources, which are so, they're the ones that you cannot make more of. Once you spend them, they're gone.
Right.
So through this process, I identified this thing called money dysmorphia. It's running so much of the show. And after that year, I came back into the world. I realized that, yes, I am supposed to be working with lawyers. I have a unique thing to be able to bring to lawyers that nobody else could bring them. And I just needed to be coming from a different place. But that in right relationship with time, energy, attention, and money, in right relationship with time, money, and how I got paid, with the right alignment and come from, I could work with lawyers, and it wasn't just about the money.
Right.
It was actually about the heart. And also then began to bring this work into the world where we can really help people get into truth around their relationship with money, but also their relationship with time, energy, attention, and ultimately their relationship to their own healing work, their parents, how they're relating with the world in general. And so that's been a bit of the journey, and I can't even believe that it's 2018 now, almost 2019. And
when did the shift happen for you, by the way? When was this point where you went on that show and realized I can't do this anymore?
It was 2009. It was right now.
Wow.
Right now, 9 years ago. And when I look at the 9 years that have passed since then, I think the thing that I want people to know the most is that time is going to pass no matter what. And it is absolutely critical that you use your time, energy, and attention really wisely because it goes by faster than you can possibly imagine. In the moments, right, it seems really slow sometimes. But then when you look back over the arc of a life, you realize how fast it goes. And if you are not using your time, energy, attention, and money intentionally, it's like so I'm 45 now. It's really hard for me to believe. And when I look back at my 30s, really, I won't say that there's regrets. There's definitely not regrets.
Sure.
There's definitely not regrets. Everything was a learning path. Everything's for learning, growth, and evolution. And I wish I had known then what I know now, so I could have made better choices around how I was using my time, energy, attention, and money. I would have put a lot more of my resources into healing work.
Right.
Because I believe that we have a collective purpose, which is, first, we are here to heal. I have a lot to say about that. And then it's not until we do that work that we can actually know what our unique purpose is.
Yes.
And we're all out there looking like, what's our unique purpose? What's my unique purpose?
Number one question I hear every day.
That is. Yeah, that's the one that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's thank you. Like, I love like that personal touch and alchemy you're sharing. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, whether they're working professionals for years or just getting started. Yeah. And I want to zoom in on one thing you said, which, I've also encountered in a lot of people, right? It's like, well, should I enter in a relationship? Should I go to the event? Should I say yes? Well, is it going to make me money? Yeah. And what I hear being said there is actually, will I be protected and provided for? Mm-hmm. So there's a very real like survival mechanism inbuilt in that question. Mm-hmm. And it's not wrong. We don't want to make it wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's not a way to live. Right. It's not a way to actually live. Because if you're constantly looking for that security and protection, you might miss out on actually experiencing life. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is when I hear you say that healing work is the best investment. Well, the root word of to heal is to be whole. Mm-hmm. And how are you going to find out what your unique purpose and gift to the planet is if you're not in a dialogue with that, right? And becoming whole and becoming into knowledge of self. Yes. Knowledge of self. There's no better investment. That's right. Yeah, it is really everything. Because from there, once you have that knowledge of self, once you're in that place of wholeness, now you can actually give back. Now you can actually give back. And my belief is, especially for everybody that's watching here, listening to this podcast, is that this is a community of people who actually do want to give back. Yes. And and what makes that really challenging is when in shadow and in the hidden parts of ourselves that we're not able to see ourselves or not willing to show, we've got this built-in scarcity that's running us that makes it actually impossible to be truly generous. Right. And I think that's one of the most heartbreaking things that I see out in the world is that there's all these people who really desire to give back, but because they're not in right relationship with time, energy, attention, and money, these team resources, they're not in right relationship with their parents. They're not in right relationship with their own healing work and their own wholeness. There's not actually the opportunity to give back. The come from is still secretly this win-lose paradigm. How can I get more for myself so that I have enough? Yeah. It's like being a trader. Like, I'm going to trade this to you so I can get something back, and I'm going to cover my base, That's right. And even though on the outside you might be a philanthropist, you might be a business mogul. Yes. There's, like you said, it's all for you. Yes. And at the end of the day, when you're laying down in bed, do you feel that like, oh, I did my best today and I gave? It's like, no, it's like I got mine. Yes. Or we see it come up a lot in conflict. So, I first saw this when I was going through a divorce with my husband, and this is way back in 2005 timeframe. He was a stay-at-home dad, and I could see, we hired lawyers, and they just wanted to escalate the conflict. They just wanted to focus on how he could get as much as possible, how I could give as little as possible. And I was really praying for guidance, because I knew that if we stayed stuck in this paradigm, it was going to hurt our children. It was going to hurt our lives. But what could I do? Because I needed to protect myself, right? This was the thought running through my head. I need to protect myself. As a mother, too. I need to protect my kids, right? And I just had this new business that I was just starting, and I didn't feel like I had a lot of resources at all. So I'm praying, show me the way. Please show me the way. Show me the way. And that's always my prayer. So y'all can borrow that prayer. It's a good one. It's a good one. It's when you don't know what to do, show me the way. And again, this voice came through, and it said, ask him what he needs and give it to him. And I was like, what? Ask him what he needs. It's opposite of what the lawyers are saying. That's right. The lawyers thought I was crazy when I came back to them. Ask him what he needs and give it to him. He's going to take me for everything I have. The voice said, don't worry, you'll make more. Don't worry, you will make more. So I went back to him and I said, okay, what do you need? I'm going to give it to you. He said, I need $4,000 a month. I didn't have an extra $4,000 a month. I was already supporting both, houses, because I had to move out, move into my own place, building this brand new business. I don't have $4,000 a month. But okay,
okay, one way, somehow, I'm a yes, I'm gonna do it. You will make more. That was the first year I made $1 million of revenue.
Come on now. This abundance paradigm in action.
Totally.
In action.
You got to look at how you can give more than you think you have to give to free up your time, energy, and attention. These are your non-renewable resources.
Yes.
And if you are using your non-renewable resources really wisely, you will make more. You will have what you need. Now, it does require you to know what you need.
Yes.
Right? So that part, it actually took me a long time to figure out. I figured out how to make $1 million, figured out how to keep making that $1 million of revenue. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is then knowing how to work with that money so that, again, you aren't going into this stingy place of constantly needing to make more, but you're looking at, okay, great, if I'm going to be $1 million business owner, how can I use $600,000, $700,000 a year to support an entire ecosystem in a way where everybody in the ecosystem is truly served, is actually having their needs met? How can you be invested in what does everybody in the ecosystem need, not just you?
Right.
And that's how then you begin to build these ecosystems that are able to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I see so many people in our community who are like, how can I just pay as little as possible? I just want to pay people as little as possible. I just want to skate by giving people as little as possible, again, so that I can keep more because I don't have enough. And so we need to start looking at, especially for leaders in the community, how can we really look at creating this entire ecosystem of support, not just for ourselves, but for everybody, helping everybody to know what they need, know what they actually have to give, and then to be in relationship, this, toroidal field of like reciprocal exchange in a way that's really fluid so that everybody is getting their needs met.
Right. You're speaking to like a zero-sum game. Or the win-win-win paradigm.
The win-win-win paradigm.
I win, you win,
That's
community wins.
That's right.
And if that relationship is set up throughout the system, you actually produce hyperabundance.
Yes.
It's like the rainforest or like biomimicry. If you look at nature, you think an apple tree is like, well, you could have 10% of my apples.
Right.
It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. And nature is a great guide here. And I really encourage anyone listening or watching right now, like, to tune in with that and see what that brings up for you. If you are giving beyond your means, or if you're holding back. Because those are the two ways. Because there's the overgiver too, where they burn themselves out.
Yes, and so the people who are overgivers, they are giving because they don't actually know what they have to give. And so when we don't know what we have to give, we try to give it all. We try to like take over everything. It's a power and control mechanism that is like you're giving because you don't really know what's yours to give, and that can be in the form of money or it can be in the form of time. So we see those people. I could say those people, this has been me, I will admit, where I will look around in the space and like everybody's doing what I want to do. And I want to do all of it myself. Right. And then I'm just going to, and I can to some degree, I've got a lot of skills and talents, I'm smart, I can do a lot of things, but then I'm actually taking away the opportunity for everybody to be in their right role. And so my job is to get super clear with what is actually mine to give, what part is actually mine to do, and then make space for everybody else to give what's theirs to give.
Right. And by doing that, like this is to the leaders, which I see you embodied as a leader, not just talking about it. Leaders go first. Yeah. And you actually create a pathway where the people that maybe wouldn't speak up or go into their gift and skill, now there's a pathway of least resistance to be like, oh, I'm invited now to contribute to the ecosystem. That's right. And so it ripples out. It ripples. And that's a big piece. Yeah. So I want to zoom in on this acronym. I think it's brilliant. I love that you talk about time, energy, and attention as non-renewable, because I think a lot of us are like, oh, what's your main resource? Oh, it's my money. You want like, how much is in my bank account? Let me check it. And it's like, actually, your time, your energy, physical, mental, emotional, and your attention, which in this era of social media, so important. Yeah. And so I want you to speak a little more to that team metaphor and what's the seed crystal there to put them in right relationship.
Yeah, so the seed crystal there to be in right relationship is to know what you actually need. To know what you actually need when it comes to money. So there is money that you actually do need. It is the current that we use to exchange currency. It's what we use to exchange. There is an amount that you need. Most people are completely, as I said, they have money dysmorphia. So maybe you're like, should I make this investment? Should I go to this event? Should I hire this person? What you do is you look in your bank account to see if you have money. And if you do, you do it. And then sometimes you end up feeling ripped off or like you made a bad choice. And that's because you weren't doing it from a place of actual clarity. You just looked in your bank account. Oh, I got money there. Okay, great. I'm going to use it. No, so that's not how we want to do it. You need to know what you actually need. And the way that I like to look at what you actually need is that there's 3 levels. There's your minimum to be happy. Everybody needs to know their minimum to be happy. It is critically important to know what is your actual minimum to be happy. So back when I started going through this process for myself, created it because I needed it for myself, I realized, okay, I don't need $40 million. I don't need $40 million invested at 5%, throw off $2 million a year to support these businesses. What do I really need? Back then, I realized $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month is the bare minimum that I could live on with my kids and like have some sort of a decent reality at that time. Knowing that was so freeing, because what happened when I went and lived for a year without, I'm only going to do what I'm going to do for free. Actually, at that time, making $5,000 a month, well, it was actually hard for me not to make more than that. Right? Because I'd already created so much in the world. People actually wanted to give me money because of the value I had already created, even if I wasn't creating more. So I actually found it was really hard to not make more than that. The next level is minimum to be of service. Now, eventually, my hope is that minimum to be happy and minimum to be of service for most people get merged. They're the same, but it's not that way for everyone. It's not that way.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we are getting there. But I realized that minimum to be of service, well, there's certain things that I actually do need in order to be of service. So for example, if I'm spending all day driving my kids around, to their activities in school, if I'm spending all day going grocery shopping and cooking, which is all the things I did in that year when I was at my minimum to be happy, if I'm spending all day doing laundry and folding laundry, I can't actually be in service in the way that I need to be in the world. Like I'm here to broadcast a message, to teach, to be able to create content, and I can't do that if I'm doing all those other things. So what do I actually need minimum to be of service? So that's the next level, minimum to be of service. It's now gotten to where if I'm not at my minimum to be of service, I'm actually not able to be fully thriving. So those have merged for me. The next level is preferred if you could afford it. Now we start to move from needs to wants. Right. And being able to distinguish your needs from your wants is critical. Most of us don't know how to do that. And as a result, we have this weird relationship with need. Like, oh, I don't really need anything. And it's like a spiritual bypass. Totally. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah. This physical being in this 3D reality has needs. We've got to embrace that. We've got to own that. And those needs are different than your wants. So your wants are your preferred if you could afford it. So when we know our minimum to be happy, we know our minimum to be of service, we know our preferred if we could afford it, then we can know where we are now in relationship to each of those. And be in right relationship, be honest with ourselves. We might see, we have this program called the Money Map. We'll talk more about that. And there's folks that are in the coaching group and, they'll share, wow, I realized I'm not even at my minimum to be happy. Right. Oh my God, like I didn't even realize that. No wonder.
Meanwhile, they may have been speaking like they were at the preferred.
Yes.
That's the bypass comes in.
Totally. Like, oh yeah, I'm fine, but they're not fine. I mean, we know what FINE stands for, right? do you know the FINE?
Freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Yes, exactly, right? So yeah, they're fine. And then there's some people who go through the program and they realize, whoa, I'm already at my preferred if I could afford it. Whoa, I'm like even beyond my preferred if I could afford it. And when you see that, you could start to realize, okay, it is time to start using the money that I have to free up my non-renewable resources, my time, energy, and attention. And so we look at that both with money and we look at it with time. Because a lot of people are building their income models, right? oh, I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to be a healer, I'm going to be a light worker, and they're building those income models actually based on a reality that does not exist. And so like, why am I working so hard and I'm not making enough money, or I'm making decent money, but like I'm going to die and I don't have the support that I need? And why don't I have the support that I need? And how come I hire these people and they don't do what I need them to do? Well, it's probably because you're out of alignment with the reality of time, energy, attention, and money. And so when you put all of these things into truth and you get really honest with yourself first and foremost, now you can actually create an income model, or have a conversation with your parents if you're an inheritor, or go out and raise funding, right? There's so many people, I'm going to go out and raise all this money, but their reality is completely not in line with what's actually true. Right. So now you can have this foundation of deep trust for yourself.
Yes.
To know that the path that you've created is the right one. You're on that path, and it's not from some magical thinking. It's based in the reality that we're living in here in this 3D world.
Right, and it's based in radical honesty and facing and meeting what's actually happening, not what you wish was happening or how you like to present it. And I can testify here that this has been my journey in the last 2 years, is coming into right relationship with, wow, I thought I was hyper abundant and in the spiritual community as a coach. And then the reality of like, wow, what do I actually need to live, thrive? And like you said, be of service, be fit for service. And I think that's a big shift. So,
well, not just with your money, but with your time. Right.
Which is the next one.
Yeah. Right. And so anybody that is currently doing this like healing work, coaching, light work, I mean, I see it with my lawyers, right? So today I have a training company. We train lawyers on this new law business model I created. And by the way, they've got all the same stuff. Everybody has, everybody's the same. Everybody's got the same stuff.
Wealth doesn't just free you from the process of healing.
Well, no. And most lawyers are actually not wealthy. Most lawyers are actually earning about $75,000 a year. They're working 60 to 80 hours a week.
Oh.
And they are stuck in this model of being like, wait a minute, I went to law school. I was supposed to come out and be able to make a lot of money and have a great life. And now what is going on? And it's because of they're out of right relationship with their resources. And I was on a group earlier today, and I saw somebody say that, they made their first $1 million and they celebrated it, and then they couldn't make payroll the next month. Right? And so there's so much of that going on, just because there's actually an inherent lie that we have inherited from the prior generation that has us in this distorted view. And our parents are also in this distorted view. And again, I believe that it is up to us to heal it through this healing process, then actually give our parents the opportunity to heal it too. No guarantees that they will, but if you go first, it's much more likely.
Right.
And then, be the models of what does it look like to really be living lives, not living lies. So many of us are
overcoming lies.
Yeah, right. And getting into the truth, getting into what is really true, and building your income model in alignment with that, building your relationships in alignment with that, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, and then ultimately, your relationship with the planet as well.
Right. So truth bombs are dropping, familia. And if you're watching us on Facebook right now, I invite you to tag someone in, share this out to your tribe, and get somebody involved who needs to hear this message. Because I don't think there's a person in the world that doesn't need to hear this message, because we all use money. Like until you're growing kale and you're living in the woods, and even then you probably need money for something.
Yes.
So I want to get to the money map, but first I think there's a really strong vein here that I've heard you wax eloquently about, which is the intergenerational bridge and divide. And so I want to speak to and paint a picture here of the inheritor generation. So post World War II, we have a lot of scarcity. We have a lot of like, okay, 1950s consumerism, here we come. Let's get a mortgage. Let's get a savings account, 401k. Let's provide for the kids. Let's hoard.
Yes.
Let's hold it all in. And then a lot of people, 10%, let's say, based on Pareto's law and things like this, the distributions become hyper successful in that.
Yeah.
And they have lived out this model to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And now what we see is because of the internet, because of these beautiful tools, technologies, because of the new wisdom coming online from the plant medicine, from Eastern mysticism, all this unity consciousness, whatever you want to call it, has flooded the system. And you see the millennial generation now is the hardest to employ. No generation has bitched more about another generation than millennials. And, you know, the leading edge here, the tech startups, parts of the financial sector, parts of, you know, the creative sector, entertainment industry, have started to pick up on a trend that millennials and the younger generations aren't willing to make the same sacrifices.
Right.
And so there's an intergenerational gap here where our parents, holding a lot of resources, worked hard for them. The new upcoming generation has a lot of great ideas and actual solutions to a lot of the crises we're facing. And yet, why are so many of them broke? And then there's the hoarding here and the reinvesting. And where do we bridge this?
Totally. Yeah. And so my background is as an estate planning attorney. And what that means, for those of you that don't know, is we help people look at what happens to their assets when they become incapacitated or when they die. And my first kind of eye-opening into this was I worked for a lawyer who had been in practice 25 years. This was at the very early days of my practice. And he said to me, he said, yeah, you know, when my clients came in the early days and their kids were young, they want to put everything into trust for their kids and protect it all for their kids. Then they come back to me 20 years later and they want to protect it all from their kids. And I was like, God, that is weird. But okay, I could see how that might be the case. Now I have teenagers today, so I can start to see like how that is, right? When the kids get to be teenagers, they're not that trustworthy. And what I can also see within myself is this knowing that my greatest dream would be to create a reality in which I co-create with my children. I do believe that it is what every parent wants. And yet that isn't what's happening. What's happening is that our parents are hoarding their resources. Not my parents. I'm going to tell you about my story with my mom because I think it's actually could inspire you to start to co-create with your parents and learn how. But the parents are hoarding their resources, holding them tight because they're scared. And so they're looking at, how can I pass my assets on after I die? People, they're living longer and longer and longer. So people are now living into their 90s, into even their hundreds routinely. And what does that mean? That means that those assets stay stuck, not creating more, often invested in things that are actually the things that are hurting our planet, oil and gas, big pharma, big ag, because that's what pays the returns. And meanwhile, our planet is facing existential risk, and the people who are going to inherit the resources are going to have to wait until they're 60, 70, 80 years old, beyond their creative earning or creative years. So we've got to actually shift this paradigm completely. And in order to do that, first of all, I think that we have to realize where we came from, like you were saying, and where we are now. So where we came from is a reality where our ancestors, not just our parents, but if we go back generations, we're survivors. Every single one of our parents.
We're the result of that.
We are the winners. We are the winners of their survival in a win-lose paradigm. So we have all of these win-lose paradigms, this zero-sum game baked into us. I was a law and economics fellow in law school, and they first started teaching about these win-lose dynamics. And I was like, what? This does not seem right. But it is what is baked into our system because our ancestors had to do it in order to get us here. So here we are. We're the winners. We won. And we've all, no matter what our background is, our ancestors, you know, whether they were just like sneaking by to get by or they were conquering and winning that way, they won. We're here. So we want to step in, though, to this win-win-win paradigm because it's the only thing that's going to allow us to thrive into the future. It's the only thing that's going to keep us from going extinct. So the first thing is we have to acknowledge that. The second thing is we have to have compassion for the senior generation that is still living. They didn't have the opportunities for connection that we have. They didn't have actually the time, energy, and attention.
Or the tools.
Or the tools. They didn't have the time, energy, and attention to get the tools. They actually had to figure out how to just make money, how to just survive, how to just, you know, figure out how to be able to take care of us. So they really did the best that they could. No matter what situation you grew up in, your parents did the best that they could.
They made a lot of sacrifices.
A lot of sacrifices. Remember, they probably grew up in the 60s. They had all this idealism. And then they realized, oh shit, I need to figure out how to take care of my kids. And so they started making decisions that were focused on money.
Right.
And they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the connection, so they did what they did. And a lot of us, the junior generation, are sitting out there with blame for our parents in various different ways. And so the first thing that I want to really encourage is to find the acceptance for your parents. That's first level. Eventually you'll get to forgiveness and gratitude. Like ultimately when you can get to gratitude, that's the highest level. If you want to co-create with your parents, if you want to be able to free up the resources that they have created so that you can co-create while they are living,
yes,
you've got to start with that acceptance and really deep understanding of them wherever possible, forgiveness, compassion, and then ultimately deep gratitude. Deep gratitude. It is the best shot that we have to be able to co-create. And that's why I talk about this healing. Because being able to do that, especially when they might be rejecting our choices.
Right.
They might be looking at us going, I sacrificed my whole life and now you're choosing to do this.
Right.
You know, I'm sure that it really terrified my mom. My dad had passed by that time, but I'm sure it really terrified my mom when I gave everything up. You know, here she thought that I was so successful.
It's like, you made it finally.
You made it. And now you're giving everything up? What? Right? And that must have terrified her. So afraid. And, you know, I remember at one point I said to my mom that, you know, one of the things I wanted to do was like become the next Susie Orman. For those of you that know Susie Orman, she's very popular, or she was on the radio, financial advisor on the radio. And my mom said to me, well, but there already is a Susie Orman. And I was like, oh my God, Mom, no. If you don't believe in me, how is anybody ever going to believe in me? But I realized, okay, I actually can't look to my mom to believe in me. I have to come into deep trust for myself so that I can believe in me. Because actually my mom's job in her role in our evolutionary dynamic is to be afraid for me. That is actually, that's her job.
A form of love and protection.
That's right. That's right. It's totally coming from love and protection. And then also what a lot of our parents do, and I only know this because I'm a parent now myself, and I've seen myself do it, is that because our parents don't have the tools of healing, anything that they are insecure about, they can't own their insecurities.
So
it's projected out. And so they'll look at you and they'll be like, there's no way I could have done a good job. So anything I'm insecure about, oh God, he's doing that thing, or like, you know, with my son, he's a gamer. Oh, I must have done a horrible job because my son spends all of his time in his room doing video games. I must be a bad parent. If I can't own that, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to try and punish him. I'm going to call him an addict. I'm going to make him bad and wrong for what he does.
Control dramas.
Exactly. So your job as the junior generation is to come into full trust, self-trust, so that you can individuate from your parents in a really healthy way, which might look like rejection to them. And in that, and the more love that you can do that with, and the more self-trust that you can do that with, it actually creates the space for them to see you and begin to own some of their own insecurities, maybe. And in the process of that, you accept them fully. You would not be who you are had they not done everything that they did, made all the choices they made, parented you.
And meeting them where they're at, not making them wrong.
Not making them wrong.
Yes, this is huge. And this was a big theme in some of the work we were doing last week and in the tribe here in Boulder is like healing the mother wound, healing the father wound. And, you know, it's funny because you would think like, oh, they came before, they have the wisdom, the knowledge, like they're going to make it right. But actually, like you said, it's coming into self-sourcing and full sovereignty. Yes. And then meeting them with love.
That's right.
Which might at first look like getting disowned or getting rejected because you're owning your power.
That's right. That's right. It could. You know, and one of our friends told us this beautiful beautiful story of how she was willing to get disowned to stand for her truth. And she did. She got disowned temporarily. It actually made space for her parents, her mom, to come towards her and start to acknowledge, wow, you're really bringing up all these fears and all these pains that I wasn't looking at. And now they're building that close relationship again.
And thanked her. Thank you for doing this on behalf of all the women in our family.
Yeah.
That opens the possibility.
So
you can open that possibility. Now, this isn't a guarantee that it'll happen.
No.
Because your parents may not be ready for that.
Yeah.
And it may take years,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And if you don't start now, there's not going to be a possibility to what we're getting at here. And this is about, love for the generation that bore us.
Yes.
And carrying that torch forward into our children's children and that 7th-generation mindset.
Yeah.
And the transfer of resources.
That's right. So
because we gotta get it fired up and
right.
create the solutions now.
Yes, right. And so that transfer of resources, the way that it begins to happen is when you have that full acceptance for your parents. And when you come into full self-trust, then there actually becomes an opportunity to go to your parents and invite co-creation. To invite co-creation, to invite them to actually look at their assets in a way where it's not about your entitlement. And you got to work through your entitlement issues where you might feel entitled or they might be projecting entitlement on you. That's actually a place for you to look within and see where are you not in full self-trust. Because when you are coming to them with that full self-trust, with knowing what you are here to do, what you actually need in order to do that, what you have to give, now you can invite them into something that they can actually be really excited about. It's not about entitlement. It's about, wow, family, we have these resources that we can use to co-create something really exciting together. But if you come to them from an ungrounded place, if you come to them from a place that is not in that full self-trust, you actually can't have that conversation because what's going to get reflected back to you is that they don't trust you. And it's legit that they don't trust you. It is legit. And so
they poured their best years into creating this. And if there's even a shred of shame, blame, and guilt,
that's right.
The coherence can't happen.
That's exactly right. And so I went through this process with my mom. And I want to say that we are all inheritors. We are all, every single one of you that is listening or watching right now, you are an inheritor. Whether your family has lots of resources or a very small amount of resources, you're an inheritor. It's by nature. We inherit from the previous generations. So I don't come from a lot of financial wealth. My mom is an art teacher. She's got a total of $300,000 in her retirement. She's 71 years old. She's still working to this day.
Wow.
And so the first thing that we did is my sister and I actually sat down with her and we said, Mom, we want to look at what you have so that we can, number one, make sure that your needs are going to be met through the rest of your life so that you can stop working. And together as a family, we can identify when that's going to happen. When is the best time for you to stop working? So that was the first level conversation. It was about, Mom, how can we make sure that your needs are met? And again, get into this conversation really honestly. So we started having that conversation some years ago. When my grandmother died, my grandmother left my mom $100,000. So again, we're not talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about a relatively small amount of money that's being passed on from one generation to the next. Unfortunately, we weren't in good conversation at that time. So all the accounts just got transferred to my mom and they sat there for 4 years. We just got back into the conversation recently and I went through and we inventoried everything. We created a spreadsheet. We looked at everything. In those 4 years, every single one of those accounts lost money. Every single one of those accounts lost money and it's so painful. And when I look at what they're invested in, petroleum, oil and gas, the airline industry, like so many things that I would not be choosing to invest in, that my mom even would not be choosing to invest in. But let me go back a few years and even before that. I sat down, I knew that I was going to ask my mom for an investment. Now, as I said, my mom doesn't have a lot of money, so how am I going to ask her for an investment? Well, I knew that my mom had an unused resource, a resource that she had actually spent her entire life building and protecting, but she was not using. What is this resource, you might be wondering, because a lot of your families actually have this resource. No matter how much money or how little money they have a credit score. So I went to my mom and I knew I was going to ask her to use her credit score to get business credit at 0% interest to invest in one of my businesses. I had actually ruined my credit score when I had gone through that year of living without paying any bills, without doing anything for the money. I'd let go of my credit score as part of that process. One day there will be a book. It's called You Are Not Your Credit Score. And I had done it in a really smart way. Actually, I filed bankruptcy, $500,000 of debt I had cleared. And a lot of people are going to hear that and say, what? Are you crazy? Actually, no, I'm crazy wise. That $500,000 was invested in my learning, growth, and evolution. That $500,000 ultimately is what supported me to learn the lessons that I needed to learn in order to today have a business that's doing $3 million of revenue, that hit the Inc. 5000 list this last year, that has a team of 20, right? So these were investments, but I'd ruined my credit score, so I couldn't access any more credit. And by the way, that is what your credit score is for. It is for accessing credit. That is what it is for. Let me make that very clear. If you're protecting it, is not to protect it to be a good person. You're protecting it to access the resources that are available to you to fund your dreams, to fund the reason that you are here on this planet right now. And so I knew I was going to ask my mom to use her credit score to access credit to put into my business. And it was terrifying because I had filed bankruptcy. She might not believe in me, facing all of my insecurities. All of my insecurities are coming up, and they're saying to me, if even your mom wouldn't invest in you, who would?
Wow.
If even your mom wouldn't believe in you,
truth right there.
Who would? I'm really curious what this is bringing up for y'all, by the way. And if anybody else needs to hear it, please do share it. So I'd love to, we're going to take some questions. So you guys post those and let me know what's coming up for you in this conversation. Because this is edgy stuff. Like, this is the real edgy stuff. So I ended up going to my mom. I had to work through those insecurities first. I had to meet them in myself first. If I had gone to her, having not yet first met those insecurities, what would have happened is that when she brought her fear, I would have defended. Right. And we would have spiraled down into an old pattern of her bringing fear and me defending and getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Instead, I worked through the insecurities in myself, met them here, came into full trust and knowing of what I was actually asking her to invest in, what I was actually inviting her to co-create with me. Sat down, had a meeting with her. By the way, this meeting was recorded.
Oh, wow.
So good.
Has it been released?
Not yet. No. It will be released. Yeah, it's in one of my paid programs, but I haven't released it out in like the big public yet. It's in a program I have called Enough. So we'll talk about that later as well, because I think it is really important for people to see. In this 15-minute conversation, at first she said no. Of course, first she said no.
Sure.
But I met it. I met that no with my full knowing of my self-trust and what I was creating and all of the pieces in place. Right relationship with time, money, and how I was going to get paid. Right relationship with how this investment was going to be able to be paid back. Clear thinking, not magical thinking. And as a result, she said yes. She completely transformed. She said yes. My mom and I have never been closer than we are today as a result of that. It is such a beautiful co-creative relationship. It's everything I ever wanted because we are in relationship together, creating in the world.
Yes.
And
so, which is what they want most, a mother and her daughter, like creating together. And I want to point out something really powerful here about money. Yeah. Money carries karma, baggage, energy, whatever you want to call it, emotion, which is energy and motion. Yeah. There's a way in what I'm hearing in your story that like the floodgates opened between you. Oh my God. Because the old control drama of mother-daughter didn't bypass or distort what was happening, which is beautiful. Of course she wants to aid her daughter in a beautiful creation. That is a win-win-win scenario.
Oh my God. It was, I spent so many years blaming my mom for her not being there for me in the way that I wanted her to be there for me. And like her not being able to give to me and knowing that I was going to have to take care of her at the end of her life. And there was just this whole blame and just this stuckness, this anger energy that was there. And when that got freed up, and by the way, it got freed up before she said yes to investing in me. I want to be very clear about that. It didn't get freed up through her yes. It got freed up through my meeting of it here both as a mother to my daughter and realizing, oh God, I'm carrying this on, taking full ownership of that, and then working those insecurities and all that blame, shame, and guilt in my own system, then I could meet her. Then I could make this request. Then we could co-create together. So that was about 3 years ago. As a result of that, I was able to receive $250,000 of credit at 0% interest that I was able to put into creating a huge body of work. Then, on top of that, just recently, she is investing $60,000. She's making me a loan of $60,000, which is from her own money, right? She's only got $300,000. She's only got $300,000. But when we sat down as a family and looked at all of the resources that she had, what we realized is I'm actually her best investment. I'm actually her best bet. She had her money invested at like 1-2%. The stocks that she had with my grandmother were losing money, whereas I can give her a guaranteed 7% return, which is less than I was paying on my line of credit at the 10%. So it's a win-win. We're keeping the money in the family.
Yes.
And it took me believing in myself, not from a false belief, but actually knowing. Now, this took years, really, of needing to be able to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, grow and evolve. And I think that the thing that is like most in my heart is being able to shortcut this process.
Yes.
You know, family, we don't have years anymore.
No.
We don't have years. They're saying 20 years until massive climate change impact. 20 years is a short amount of time. 20 years ago, I was 25 years old, you know? So when I look at that and I think, whoa, we do not have a lot of time at all. We don't have time for y'all to make the same mistakes that I've already made.
Yes.
So I've put all of that learning and all of those mistakes and all of that evolution, all of that growth into these programs that I've created called the Money Map. We've referred to it called the Enough program. I referred to it very briefly. That's where there's the video with my mom. And why did I do this? And I have to say that I've been actually really resistant to bringing this work into the world because 4 years ago, 2014, it was the last time that I shared this work, and took 250 people through this Money Map program. And then right when that happened, my daughter turned 15 and she started really needing me, and my other company that serves lawyers really needed me. And so I did the Money Map process on myself, and I realized I can't keep having two companies and be a mother to a teenager.
Integrity.
I had to actually put the Money Map work aside. I had to put the Enough work aside. I would put this company called Eyes Wide Open aside and let it sit and focus on my business that trains lawyers, focus on my children. And so then bringing this work back online now, it's this question for myself of, I don't need to do this. I'm making plenty of money in my business that serves lawyers. All of a sudden, my children are great. My daughter is 19 years old. She's doing fantastic. My son is 15. He's super happy to be gaming. They don't really need me that much. I could actually be free now. I could just go travel and hang out.
Right.
Right? And yet, this work keeps calling me and saying, no, Allie, or Alexis, oftentimes it's actually Alexis. No, Alexis. That's how, this is the Alexis part. No, Alexis, this is yours to do. You have to share this work with the people who need it, because we cannot afford for them to take all these years. We can't afford to have these resources that are stuck in the senior generation, because the junior generation doesn't have the tools for trust and to build co-creation. You have to bring this work back into the world. It's not time for you to just go sit on the beach.
Right.
It's not time for you to just go, do the festival circuit.
Right.
Unless you're talking about this.
Sure.
This. It is actually time for you to show up with this and bring this work back out into the world and share it in a way that is going to be able to help people come into right relationship with time, energy, attention, and money, get into relationship with what's true, create ecosystems and income models that are truly sustainable. Ultimately, I see this work replacing the traditional financial advisor model, right?
Yeah.
Right now, the traditional financial advisor model is built on a model where, you know, you go to a financial advisor, they take your money and they invest it in things you don't even know what it's invested in. It's like so disconnected. They get paid these big commissions to sell you things. You don't even know what they're selling you. You don't even know. They're churning your account. I mean, it's just a horrible model. It's not good for the financial advisors. It's not good for the people that are advising them.
Not good for the planet.
It's not good for the planet. I want you to learn how to be your own financial advisor.
Right.
Come into connection with the resources that you really have. Come into connection with what do you need? What do you have to give? How do you ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give? Whether you're asking your parents to co-create with you, whether you're asking a client to pay you the right amount that you actually need to be paid so that you can deliver a phenomenal service to them, whether you are asking a boss for the money that you actually need to be able to show up for your job every day and not have to work 2 jobs or be able to work from home or however you actually want to do that, so that you can have a job that actually works. Whether you are asking a partner or a spouse or an investor to invest in you, somebody who's not even in your family, you've got to be in that right relationship. And so I created this body of work called the Money Map. There's also a course called Enough. And it gives people the tools to know exactly what they need, exactly what they have to give, exactly what resources they have available, and then how to create an income model that is going to be sustainable so that ultimately we can create ecosystems, not from false beliefs and magical thinking, but from this place of truth, and activate these resources into actually creating this next level of the new economy, the new paradigm that we're all stepping into.
We're channeling, folks. We are hot. Ali is on a heater right now for good reason, because she's dropping truth bombs. And we have the Money Map linked in this video if you want to get involved. We're running a special here, and I think Katz got us with the links. But at this time, if someone has a question, I want to really invite you to drop it in the comments. We're going to take like maybe 2 or 3 questions if they're really potent. And I want to speak to something, Ali, because this, I mean, I'm getting so many spirit bumps and just feeling the vibe right now, because in high school and college even, you aren't taught this stuff. No one's telling you like, hey, this is how to, well, first, like, here's how you balance a checkbook, and here's how you deal with finances and have a conversation with your parents. And then in university, even if you're in economics or like, you know, finance major, who's talking about this?
Even for people who get an MBA, here's what's so crazy. Even for people who get an MBA, when I look at the cash flow systems that I've had to create for my businesses, and I had to create them because when I went through the bankruptcy, I realized, oh, great, I know how to make a lot of money, but I don't actually know how to even look at that money, how to make sure that the investments I'm making are smart investments, how to track my cash flow. I'm just in this mindset of I'm going to make more, right? This was many years ago now, 2010, 2011 timeframe. And when I talk to MBAs and I show them the cash flow forecasting systems that we've created, and I talk to them about the containers and rhythms and structures I've created to look at my financials, it's not even in their awareness or in their paradigm. And the strategic decisions that I'm able to make because I'm able to look at those numbers, it's I don't know what they're teaching, but it is not what we actually need to know. It is not what we actually need to know.
I mean, this is infinite growth capitalism, which to me resembles a dis-ease known as cancer. And, you know, he may have had some whack ideas, but Karl Marx saw this pretty clearly when he writes about, you know, the infinite accumulation of capital will lead to infinite dis-ease and disorganization in human beings. We're not talking about corporate balance sheets. We're talking about human beings here.
In your lives. I mean, it is the reality of money dysmorphia. It is the reality of money dysmorphia, the distorted view we have of our financial reality that causes us to make poor decisions around how we use our time, energy, and attention, our non-renewable resources. When your non-renewable resources, your time, energy, and attention are right aligned, you can create everything that you need, including the supporting an ecosystem around you, an ecosystem where everybody has their needs met. This is the foundation to creating a world that works for everyone. So, I've got a bunch of people who are commenting over on my feed as well. You've got some things on your feed as well. And
one interesting perspective here, and I'd love to hear your take on this, Ali, just personally. Someone brought up the subconscious mind, because you're dropping truth bombs here, and it's very grounded. And my experience of you is that you are very grounded, even though we're running in communities where like Kundalini rising is a buzzword, you know. When you speak about clear thinking and these models, like what is your perspective on like the self-work? Because like you told that beautiful story about your mother, it happened inside you first.
That's right.
It wasn't like, well, if she says yes, like then we'll get to heal.
That's right. No, I mean it is. So you know, a lot of this is the deep shadow work. It is really looking at where your own perception of yourself, which was probably taken on from your parents, which was taken on from their parents, and so on and so on. But here it has landed in you. And where your own perception of yourself is keeping you from being in that full trust. And the willingness to see that, and by the way, share it in safe community.
Right.
That is so
That's
important.
The bridge right
so
there.
many of us are hiding because we're embarrassed, right? So how many of you are in a reality where, you know, there's some part of you that thinks you're not a good person. There's some part of you that wonders if the work you're doing in the world is really meaningful. There's some part of you that actually doesn't fully trust yourself. So if that is true, which it is for most people, most people aren't talking about it. Certainly most people aren't talking about it publicly, let alone with their friends, let alone with their partner, and yet it is running everything. And so then you're making all of your choices from there. And if you can't fully own it, what's going to happen is you're going to project it out on everything. You're going to project it out on your business model. You're going to project it out on your clients. You're going to project it out on your partner, your kids, your spouses, your parents. And so owning that and coming into the truth of where am I actually not believing in myself? And I wouldn't even get stuck in the why. I have this thing that runs through my head. Stop whining. There's so much like why? It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter why. What matters is what.
Yes.
That's what matters. What matters is what. So I do want to say if people don't have any, here we've got one. How do you make sure you stick to a budget? How would that look? I find I go over all the time. I know it's definitely my choices, and those choices really don't align with my values.
It's a grounded question.
Yeah. So let me shift the whole perspective on budgeting. I don't want you to stick to a budget, Shannon. What I want you to do is go through the money map process and create the money map that you are going to live into. So it's not about how can I save as much as possible and live into this budget. Ass. Yeah, right. It's actually the exact other way around. It's actually, we're going to twist the whole thing inside out. And what you're going to do is you're going to dream into a new reality, minimum to be happy, minimum to be of service, preferred if I could afford it, identify where you are now, get really clear on where you are now and where you are working towards next so that you can create the income that you actually need so you don't keep blowing your budget.
Wow, it's literally like backwards.
Every time you blow your budget, guess what happens? You have less and less trust for yourself. And so now you're reinforcing this pattern of lack of self-trust because you are set up in this paradigm of having to live within this budget that is not even realistic. And now you are just reinforcing the wounds, reinforcing the lack of self-trust. So we want to flip it all around. You go through the money map. You get clear on where you are now. You get clear on where you are next. And then you start to create from that place so that you open up the entire possibility for your future and you start to build self-trust instead of more and more and more self-doubt.
Yes. I mean, to answer that question, I'm not sure who asked that. It's very powerful.
Yeah, Shannon. Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking to the subconscious programming, because that's what I just heard you say.
Yeah.
If you're blowing your budget, you're in a downward spiral of bypassing your self-trust by being like, oh, I fucked up again.
Yeah.
And then that belief goes in, subconscious mind, somewhere like at 9,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind.
That's right.
If we follow the work of Bruce Lipton and all that.
That's right.
So this is a whole different paradigm where it's like, once you establish those minimum needs, what do I actually need to survive? How can I be fit for service and fit to be in the community? And then you get to the wants and luxuries.
That's right.
Creating from that place establishes the opposite, which is a positive feedback loop that
That's
upward spirals you into
That's
like,
right.
I did it. And then before you know it, you're in like abundance.
That's right.
And you're not like, well, you know, the food budget was pretty tight. I better eat some GMOs. You know,
That's
it's like,
right.
we're not even in that
No.
paradigm.
Well, and I want to say this because a lot of people look at this work and they're like, well, is this only for rich people? Because, you know, you made all this money. One of the women that went through this program in 2014, she's back in it now. Because to me, this is a process that you do again and again and again. Yeah, it's ongoing. And so she's back in the program again, and we asked her, what changed for you over these 4 years? She went through the program in 2014. She was living in a trailer.
Wow.
With 3 kids and her husband working all the time in 14-degree weather, an uninsulated trailer in Minnesota. And when she updated her money map this time, she realized, oh my God, my husband's working 4 days a week. We're living in a home. Everything actually that she had put on her no limits. This was her no limits reality, living in a home with her husband working 4 days a week. She's actually gotten there. She's actually created this no limits reality. Now that becomes her baseline. Now she's like, oh, I've actually freed up a significant amount of my resources, my time, energy, and attention to create at the next level. Now she gets to build into what is this next level that she can build into from there. On the flip side, I'm going to go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, is a woman who was making $300,000 a year in a sales role, but she was working 60 hours a week, commuting. And as a result of this work, she was able to see, oh, wow, I'm actually way beyond my preferred if I could afford it. I'm going to go in and renegotiate with my boss to be able to work from home. As a result, she's actually started 2 side businesses. So now she has multiple streams of revenue. She still has that other job. And she's got so much more support in her ecosystem. Right. As a result, reclaimed her time, energy, and attention. I see her on Facebook all the time, traveling with her kids, having this great relationship with her husband. Had she not done this work 4 years ago, she wouldn't be having that life right now. Right. She wouldn't be having that life right now.
This is valuable because money really is relative.
Yeah.
And if, whether you're in a trailer, you're pulling in 6 figures, like you can be on the either extreme, like way below your needs or so far beyond your wants that like it's like a wake-up call. That's and I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, and I want to say something about the work, because what we did is we put a link here to the money map so that you all could join the money map process and go through it on your own at a significant discount, thanks to Kevin. So normally the do-it-yourself version of the money map has been $1,000. With Kevin's code, you're going to be able to go through it on your own for $444. You got to use Kevin's code and the special link that's here. And I want to say something about this. We're actually phasing out the do-it-yourself work. In 2019, the minimum investment to go through this work is going to be $5,000. And you're going through it with a coach. And you're going through it with a coach. And the reason that we're doing that is because this is like, you're going to face some stuff going through this work. And when I'm looking at building a sustainable ecosystem that is going to support a whole lot of people with this work, I know that our 444, it's not sustainable long term. Right. I'm offering it at that right now, just really as a gift to the communities that I'm part of, before I go out and start putting all the money into Facebook ads and start really reaching this big audience and start training salespeople and the whole thing that I know that it takes to build a company like I've done with the company that I have. So for those of you that want to get into this work and don't want to wait until it's $5,000 or $7,500 if you're going through the full 6-month program, but you want to actually start doing it now as we're going into the new year. We have a coaching community where the people that are going through the work are coming together to support each other. I'm showing up on Facebook Lives every week to support that community. I will not be doing that in the future either, taking back my own time, energy, and attention. So this is really a gift to the community that we said, what is the least that we can do it for that will support the most number of people right now as we're in this transition ourselves? And so if you want to join this really tight-knit community of people that are doing this work, that are showing up for it, in fact, a lot of them are here on my page talking to each other. And a lot of these people that are here on the page going through it right now are actually going to become what I call money map masters and be able to take other people through this work in the future. That's my big vision with it. My big vision, I know that I'm just one person. And one of the things I teach in there is these entrepreneurial archetypes, which are different income models. And the one that is the most right for me, based on my skills, resources, time, energy, and attention, is called Star Creator. The Star Creator model is one where you create a body of work. You master that body of work yourself, first in the one-to-one, then very likely in the groups, and then you license other people to start taking people through
proliferation
it
instead of just like pipelining it. Yeah.
That's right. And so I'm at the point where I'm no longer doing this work on a one-to-one basis. I instead am taking people, I'm training people to take other people through this work. And, you know, that's how it will exponentially grow over time. But we're just in this very brand new, not brand new, really, like re-emergence phase, where it's like we were in this cocoon for the past 3 years doing my other work, parenting my kids, and now coming back out.
Beautiful. Well, you heard it here, family, and this is going to be tagged in the show notes. It's in the comments right now. You heard Ali. This program is extremely powerful. I've talked to a number of people that are a part of it, and you know, if you've been listening in, you know, this is a chance to get in early before the price raises. So I would really invite you, encourage you. And again, tag someone who needs to hear this. Tag an entrepreneur that needs to hear this, especially. And share this with your tribe if it's resonated. Ali, this has been incredible. Such an honor. I'm in awe of your commitment. That's what comes through when I hear you speak, is like your commitment to actually create prosperity and abundance for not only yourself but your entire ecosystem is that archetype of Star Creator that is going to pull us through, you know, the uncertain times politically, environmentally, etc. Like that's it.
I mean, we have to create the parallel systems now. Like there is no more time for us to be playing around.
It's not postponing.
Like, well, it's like,
we'll do it eventually.
That's right. Like
let me milk my 401k.
That's right. It's like now is the right time to either get out of that job that is sucking your soul. It might be making you plenty of money, but you know it's not what you're here to do. Now, if that job is giving you the time, energy, and attention to do your healing work, great. I support you to stay in that job. But if it is taking up all of your time, energy, and attention so that all you could do when you get home is watch TV or, you know, Facebook Lives, then that's not the right job. You need to be doing your healing work. You need to have the time, energy, attention, and money to do that. Or if you are in an income model, business model, you created this business with such great intentions, but it's gotten to the place where it is just not serving you or serving in the way that you want, but you're feeling kind of stuck in it because of the money, now is the time to shift that. If you are an inheritor, and we're all inheritors, and you really want to co-create with your parents in a beautiful way, this is the time. This is the time. It's you know, we're right on time, and now is the time. So please do take these next steps, regardless of whether you do the work of the money map, you get into clarity about enough. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say that when you enroll in the money map with this link, with Kevin's code, we're giving you that enough course as well. Wow. So that video of my mom and me asking her for the money and the investment, it's in there. It's 15 minutes where you get to actually see me do it. You get to see her say no. You get to see what I said so that she says yes, and how that was just such the perfect way for us to come into co-creation so that you can model that for yourself as well.
Yeah, I know so many coaches, consultants, healers, influencers that are on this cusp, and yeah, I'm one of them too, and I'm leveling up in my own way. Check out Ali's work. Her old name, or whatever what you want to call it, her true name, Alexis Neely. She's got it's alexisneely.com.
No, it's so eyeswideopenlife.com is the website for kind of the bigger body of the money map work. moneymaptofreedom.com/Kevin is where you can join with Kevin's discount code. I don't know, we posted it in here. I think
it's Kevin444.
Yeah, Kevin.
Kat has it tagged here. So anyone looking for that link, Kat's posting it right now. I'm going to repost it after this video.
Yes.
But you can get involved with that work. Check out Ali's work and she's on Facebook. You heard the websites. This is like some cutting edge stuff.
It is.
And it's so like just a blessing that you are in my life and we found one another at Collective Legacy.
Yes.
And yeah, we're signing off, fam. This is just the beginning. Inviting inheritors to step into it, inviting the new generation to build bridges and not walls, especially when it comes to money. This has been the Re-Evolution Podcast. I love you all so much. Good night. Oh, ciao, ciao.